The Pinot Noir turned to vinegar in my mouth as Silas Vance's voice cut through the crystal-clinking silence of the dining room. It wasn't a shout. It was a low, resonant baritone, cultured and cruel, designed to travel across the mahogany table and hit me squarely in the chest. "Let's be realistic, son," Silas said, swirling his glass, not even looking at me. "We don't bring strays into the house. We feed them on the back porch, perhaps, but we certainly don't offer them a seat at the table. It confuses lineage." The air in the room vanished. 20 distinguished guests, senators, oil tycoons, and old money erases froze. Their forks hovered halfway to their mouths. Every pair of eyes darted between the billionaire patriarch and me, the woman in the off-therak dress sitting next to his golden boy son. I felt the blood drain from my face, pulling in my hands, making them tremble beneath the tablecloth. I clenched my fists until my nails bit into the skin, using the sharp pain to ground myself. "Dad," Ethan whispered, his face pale. Don't what?" Silas finally looked at me, his eyes cold and blue like a frozen lake. "Don't state the obvious. You're infatuated, Ethan. That's fine. Boys have their dances with gritty women. It builds character. But you don't bring the help to the gala dinner. You don't pretend that a girl who grew up on food stamps belongs in a room where the cutlery costs more than her education." He smiled, a terrifying, thin expression. "It's unkind to her. Really, look at her. She's terrified. She knows she's a fraud. My name is Kiera Thorne. I am 34 years old. I am not a stray. I am the founder of one of the most aggressive biotech firms in Silicon Valley. But tonight, in this Newport mansion, I was just the girl from the projects who dared to date the heir to the Vance energy empire." I carefully unhooked my napkin from my lap. I placed it on the table, smoothing out the linen with deliberate precision. The silence was so heavy it felt like physical pressure against my eardrums. "Thank you for the meal, Mr. Vance," I said, my voice steady, betraying none of the hurricane raging inside my rib cage. "And thank you for the clarity. It's rare to meet a man so eager to show the world exactly how small he really is." The gasp that went around the table sucked the oxygen out of the room. Silas blinked, his smirk faltering for a microsecond before hardening into rage. "Excuse me," he snarled. I said, "Thank you," I repeated, standing up. "For Thelison." I turned and walked out. I didn't run. I walked with the cadence of a woman who had walked through fire before and knew she didn't burn. I passed the original Renoir in the hallway, the silent, terrified staff, and a security detail at the front door. I was halfway to my Honda Accord, parked conspicuously between a Ferrari and a Maybach, when I heard running footsteps on the gravel. "Kiera, wait!" Ethan caught my arm. He was breathless, his tuxedo tie askew, tears streaming down his face. "Kiera, please. I am so sorry. I didn't know. I swear I didn't know he would be that vicious." I looked at him. I loved him. I truly did. But looking at him now, shivering in the cool Atlantic breeze, all I saw was fear. He called me a stray. "Ethan," I said softly. "He's drunk. He's stressed about the merger. I'll talk to him. I'll make him fix this." "You can't fix a rot that deep," I said, pulling my arm gently from his grip. "He didn't just insult me. He dehumanized me, and you sat there for 10 seconds before you spoke." I was in shock. I was in hell. I corrected. "There's a difference." I opened my car door. "I'm going home. Ethan, don't follow me. I need to think. Kiera, don't let him win. Don't let him break us." I looked at the mansion looming behind him, a fortress of stone and ego. "He can't break what he doesn't own. Go back inside. Your father expects you to finish your dessert. I drove away. I watched the Vance estate shrink in my rearview mirror until it was nothing but a cluster of lights against the dark ocean. My hands were shaking now, the adrenaline crash hitting me like a physical blow. My phone rang. It was my assistant Sarah. It was 9:30 p.m. on a Saturday. "Kiera," she said, her voice tight. "I know you're at the dinner, but the legal team for the acquisition just emailed. They want to move the signing up to Monday morning. Vance Energy is pressing hard." I pulled the car over to the shoulder of the highway. I stared at the ocean, dark and churning. Vance Energy, the dinosaur of the industry. They were bleeding cash, desperate to pivot into renewables and biotech. They needed a savior. They needed Nexus Dynamics. They needed my company. Silas Vance knew Nexus was the target. He knew the financials. He knew the tech was revolutionary. What he didn't know, because I had used a holding company and a proxy CEO for the negotiations to avoid media scrutiny, was that a gritty woman he had just called a stray was the majority shareholder and founder of the company he was begging to merge with. "Sarah," I said into the phone. "Yes, Miss Thorne. Kill it." There was a pause on the line. "I'm sorry, ma'am. The signal is breaking up. Did you say kill the merger?" I said, my voice cold. "Terminate the letter of intent. Pull the financing. Notify the SEC that we are withdrawing from negotiations effective immediately." "But Kiera, the deal is worth $4 billion. The termination fee alone. I don't care about the fee. Write the check." And Sarah, "Yes. Send the termination notice directly to Silas Vance's personal email. Cite incompatible values and toxic leadership as the reason for withdrawal. He's going to panic," Sarah whispered. This deal was their lifeline. "I know," I said. Prepare a press release for Monday morning and set up a meeting with Solaris, their biggest competitor. If Vance won't sell to me, I'll just buy the company that will drive them into bankruptcy." "Understood," Sarah said, her professional mask sliding back into place. "Anything else?" "Yes. Get me a coffee. It's going to be a long night." I didn't sleep. I sat on the balcony of my penthouse, watching the city skyline, drinking cheap coffee, and waiting. The fallout was faster than I expected. At 7 a.m., my phone blew up. Missed calls from Ethan. Missed calls from lawyers and 6 missed calls from a number I recognize from the diligence. Paperwork. Silas Vance. At 8:30 a.m., Sarah buzzed my intercom. "Miss Thorne, there's a gentleman in the lobby. He says it's urgent. He's shouting at security." "Let me guess," I said, smoothing my silk blouse. "Expensive suit, red face. Looks like he's about to have a coronary." "That's the one. He says he needs to speak to the owner of Nexus." "Let him up," I said, "but put him in the glass conference room. The one where the sun hits your eyes in the morning. Let him wait for 20 minutes. "You're terrible," Sarah said, clearly smiling. "I'm a stray," I replied. "We have bad manners." 30 minutes later, I walked down the hallway to the conference room. I didn't bring a notebook. I didn't bring a lawyer. I just brought myself. Silas Vance was pacing the room like a caged tiger. He looked older than he had last night. His tie was loosened, his eyes bloodshot. When I opened the door, he spun around, his face contorting into confusion. "You?" he scoffed. "What are you doing here? Did you follow me?" "I'm waiting for the CEO, Kiera. Get out. I don't have time for your teenage drama." I didn't say a word. I walked to the head of the table and sat down in leather executive chair. I swiveled slightly, crossing my legs. "Please sit down, Silas." I said. He froze. He looked at me, then at the empty chairs, then back at me. The realization hit him slowly, creeping up his neck like a rash. He looked at the logo on the wall behind me, the Nexus Helix. Then he looked at the girl from the projects. "No," he whispered. "That's impossible, is it?" I asked. "You did your background check, didn't you? You saw the foster homes. You saw the community college. You saw the waitressing jobs." I leaned forward, resting my elbows on the mahogany table, a table that cost more than his car. "You saw where I started, Silas. You were so busy looking down your nose that you forgot to look at where I went. You missed the patents. You missed the IPO. You missed the fact that the gutter trash you insulted last night owns the oxygen your company needs to breathe." Silas sank into the chair opposite me. He looked small, deflated. "Kiera," he stammered, his voice trembling. "Miss Thorne, there has been a misunderstanding." "Was it a misunderstanding when you called me a stray?" I asked calmly. "Was it a misunderstanding when you said I pollute the lineage?" "I was drunk," he pleaded. "It was a private dinner. It had nothing to do with business." "It had everything to do with business," I snapped. "My business is built on looking for potential where others see nothing. Your business is built on exclusion, on prestige, on the idea that names matter more than innovation. I don't partner with dinosaurs, Silas. I bury them." "You can't do this," he said, sweat beading on his forehead. "Without this merger, Vance Energy shares will tank by noon. We'll be insolvent in 6 months. Think of the employees. Think of Ethan." "I am thinking of Ethan," I said. "I'm thinking he deserves a father who isn't a bigot. And I'm thinking he deserves a future that isn't tied to a sinking ship." My phone buzzed on the table. I glanced at it. "That's Solaris," I said. "They're very excited about the acquisition offer. They're calling to finalize the terms." Silas looked like he might vomit. "Please name your price. We'll renegotiate. I'll give you a board seat." "I'll give you I don't want a seat, Silas." I cut him off. "I want the table." I stood up. "Here is the new deal. Nexus will acquire Vance Energy, not a merger, an acquisition. We will buy you out for pennies on the dollar to save the company from bankruptcy. But there is one condition." "Anything," he breathed. "You resign. Immediately. No golden parachute. No consulting fee. You walk away and you never step foot in the building again." His mouth opened and closed. You can't be serious. I built that company, and last night you destroyed it." I said, "You have 1 hour to decide. After that, I signed with Solaris and your stock hit zero." I walked to the door. "Oh, and Silas, on your way out, use the service elevator. We like to keep the lobby clear for people who actually belong here." I left him sitting there, aching in a glass cage, watching his kingdom burn. I went back to my office. Ethan was there. He was sitting on my sofa, head in his hands. Sarah had let him in. He looked up when I entered, his eyes red. "I heard," he said hoarsely. "The news is already leaking. The stock is in free fall." I gave him a choice, I said, leaning against my desk. "I know." Ethan stood up. He walked over to me, hesitating, then stopped a foot away. "He called me. He screamed. He told me to fix you." And I told him. Ethan took a deep breath that he was right about one thing. I didn't deserve you, but not for the reasons he thought. He reached out and took my hand. "I resigned this morning, Kiera, before the stock crash. I'm done. I don't want the money if it comes with his strings. I don't want the legacy if it means watching him treat people like garbage." I looked at him, searching for the fear I had seen last night. It was gone. In its place was a quiet, terrified resolve. You walked away from billions, I asked. I walked away from a bully, he said. I'd rather be a stray with you than a prince with him. I smiled, and for the first time in 24 hours, the knot in my chest loosened. Well, I said, pulling him closer. The good news is I'm hiring. And I hear we're acquiring a large energy firm that needs new non-toxic leadership. By noon, Silas Vance had resigned. By 2:00 p.m., the acquisition was announced. By evening, the world knew that the estray had just eaten the wolf. I never spoke to Silas again. I didn't need to. The last image I have of him is through the glass wall of my conference room, signing his resignation with a shaking hand, finally understanding that in the new world, the only thing that matters is what you bring to the table, not who your father was. Some people say revenge is a dish best served cold. I disagree. Revenge is a business transaction, and business, as it turns out, is booming. If this story hit you, don't be silent. Subscribe, share, and like. Turn on the bell. Silence isn't revenge. Being hurt is.